just shut people down as they don't come off, they come off mute when they're not supposed to. Yeah, anyway, so I was actually thinking, because of our morning banter here for a few minutes, maybe next week we brush up on off market properties again, because it seems like we need to. But before that, we have this week. So let's go ahead and start with this week and what is happening this week. I'm going to give you Texas numbers. We always start with that. So Texas numbers, 83 agents right now in our Ben Kinney side of place. 83 agents, 83. Very good number. $54 million pending, still super strong and pending. $54 million pending right this second. $56 million in listings. $56 million in listings. We have closed 54 properties so far, and I would say it's probably about to double, because this is the last week of the year and of the month, and so you know exactly what happens. Everybody closes their properties out, but 54 properties closed means 1.9 houses per day. 1.9 houses per day is what we're selling. That's a lot of houses, you guys. We have closed $19 million in volume. Your average price point right now is $352. $352. That's your average price point within our group. You guys are representing right this second 241 buyers. 241 buyers. So that's what it's looking like right now in Texas. It's off to a very fast start. It's about 2.5 times faster start than last year. So that's good. That's awesome. And let's see. I don't know. Is Aaron Bradley on? Because Aaron, you have a birthday coming up. Is that true?
I do have a birthday coming up, but it's not till the 1st of February.
I know, but next time we see you, it's gonna be, I think, the 4th or something. So happy birthday, Aaron. Happy early birthday from all of us.
Aaron looks like he's trying to not be seen today. Like, can anyone?
Yeah, I see the camo. It's real today. He knew he was gonna get a call out for his birthday. Glad you're with us. Happy for the privilege of you getting older.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
You got it. You got it. All right. Well, today we have a guest, and you have seen Robbie a few times probably, because he is a big fan of ours. But today we get to just kind of go into your story, Robbie. So, Robbie, where are you located? Where can we send you referrals, first of all of that good stuff. And then just, what'd you do before real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. So anything that is in and around Knoxville, Tennessee, we would love to get our hands on. So we have some hungry agents that will drive an hour and a half away just to take a listing. So anything that you guys have in East Tennessee, we want to be your go-to. So thank you so much. Texas has a warm place in my heart. I'm a lifelong Cowboys fan. Don't know where it came from. My whole family was Redskins fans, or whatever they're called now. But Deion Sanders was the man when I was growing up, and I used to wear a bandana around my head. I looked like, I don't know what I looked like, but definitely kind of a goofy looking kid growing up with that going on. But yeah, so Adelina told me that I could share a little bit of my story with you guys, and I'm a very open book, because I believe that by sharing my story, that it can affect other people and help them as well. And I picked that up from church. You hear some of the stories that some people share and their journey to Christ, and I kind of apply that in business as well. So I started out, I didn't have a high bar for myself. I didn't do really good in high school, didn't really go to college, and started working as like a porter, or moved cars on a car lot. And one day I heard a guy talk about a career that made, he was making really good money in, but he left it because he started a family. And I didn't have a wife or any kids at the time. And so I followed up on it. And so I ended up being an industrial radiographer. And what they do is they go into nuclear power plants, or just power plants in general, and they would take x-rays of valve components. So it's significantly cheaper to shut a line down and not disassemble a valve in a power plant like that. It's better and more cost efficient to send a crew in to do an x-ray of a valve, just like you would have an x-ray of your arm done, is what we did. So I did that for about 5 years, and I would spend about 9 to 10 months on the road every year. It was just a bunch of young guys who, they threw good money at us, and that's what we did. So we lived in hotels, again, like 9, 10 months out of the year. Well, I found out that I was going to be a dad, and I was married at this time. That's a jab at my brother, him and my sister both did things out of order. So I like to give them a hard time. But we were married, and we found out we were going to be parents, and that was, unexpected but super exciting. And we went and had a failed pregnancy pretty far into the late stages of it. And but what that did is it showed us how badly we wanted to be parents. And so I continued working on the road, and we ended up trying to have a child, and my wife got pregnant again. And having gone through a really bad experience, it was like the issues that the baby had were like 1 in 8 million. It was a super rare thing that was kind of hard to find any information about, even on the internet. And but me and my wife both agreed that we didn't want her to have to go through that experience alone. And the money was good, but we really wanted to try to go, as a spouse, you always want your family to be taken care of, and you want your wife to feel comforted. And sleeping alone at night and just worrying every day that something, going through a bad pregnancy, something was going to come up. So I decided, I just one day woke up and I was like, yeah, this, the money's not worth it to me anymore. I want to be with her, and she's a really pretty girl. So that was even more motivation to want to be around my wife. But I looked at my options because I hadn't gone to college. And my 3 things that I settled on were, I was going to be a bartender, which I have no business at all pouring a drink. I was going to work at a gym, and I'm like $180 soaking wet. Like at that time, I was probably like 165, something like that. The dad bod kicked in once I had a couple of kids. But third one was real estate. And the reason I liked the real estate idea was because I've always had a pretty good work ethic, especially if it was something that I was interested in. And the real estate thing had a really high ceiling, that if you applied yourself, you could do really well in it. And so I spent like 2 months just watching YouTube videos on different realtors and trying to learn the industry and making sure that I was, educated on some things, and started out. So I got my real estate license, went to a brokerage that didn't charge me a monthly fee because I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. I held my real estate, I held my industrial radiographer license for about the first year, just in case. Like I was still like that timid going into the process. And I know a lot of people brag about how well they do their first year, and I'd like to do the same. So I sold 1 home my first 6 months, which was a pretty good shock to me. Going from a pretty good income to 1 home in your first 6 months is a little humbling. And then I ended up selling another couple homes. I think I sold 6, maybe my whole, year and a half into the business. And so what I did was I told everyone I sold 1 home my first year, and or I didn't tell them that, but I told them that I did 5 times the business like my first full year in the business. But I'd only sold 5 homes. Like I was comparing 1 to 5. So but one of the challenges that came up was like really severe anxiety. And that showed its like reared its head and really put some stress and crippled me a little bit in a couple different ways. I went from to just kind of give you a good context and kind of paint the picture a little bit better. I went from a job where I was in a hotel sleeping about 10 months out of the year, right? And I went from that into an industry where I'm always talking to people and always being in front of people, and And that was a really hard challenge that I didn't expect. I knew that I had some anxiety issues, but I'd never seen a doctor or anything about it. For instance, like I couldn't go out and eat in public, which is crazy, saying it now, but at the time, like that's how bad the anxiety was that I was afraid I was going to get sick at the table at the restaurant or something like that. Like I just wasn't comfortable being in social settings at all. And so um, going into real estate, I found myself like I had a closing. I had my first closing. My first 6 months was in my first month of real estate. So I went 5 months after that with nothing. And just the crippling like weight of I have to make this work. Like I don't have any other options. Like I have at that time I had a child on the way. My wife was working. She was super pregnant, and I had my first closing coming up. And I remember I was just so physically sick due to like anxiety. I had anxiety before it was cool. Like that's what I'm thinking. But I had anxiety, and I remember like not being able to like make it out of the house without like running back in and like like dry heaving, almost thrown up. And so I took some like a painkiller or something like that, like some Oxycontin or something like that, and went to the closing and made it through the closing. That's my first closing. That is my first experience of closing a property. And I had to unfortunately take some self medication just from like having wisdom teeth pulled or something like that. That was my experience. Like that's how bad it was. So after that closing, I really, really struggled with trying to get out and meet people. I would my safe space was in my house at that time, and I would watch real estate videos. I watched hundreds of hours of real estate videos at that time. No exaggeration, like hundreds of hours of videos on real estate. And when I got asked to go show a house for someone, I remember going, and it was in like the old city, this downtown part of Knoxville that's kind of historic. And I got there early, and I went inside, and I just the overwhelming pressure that I put on myself just to show a house. Like I know now thinking about it, it's so goofy. But at the time, like it was just so much pressure that I put on myself to not screw up and to make sure I did good, because we have a baby on the way. I have a new job. These big monumental shifts in my life all happened at one time. And I remember being inside the house. It was an old like 1800s home, 2-story, and I was getting sick upstairs. Like again, probably an overshare, but I was getting sick upstairs, and I'd run and look out through the window and see if the car had showed up or not, right? So anyway, so they no showed me, which was best case scenario, which was, in all seriousness, that's what I was praying for, that they would no show, because I don't know, I just couldn't do it at the time. So anyway, so I went back home, and I spent the next 2 weeks in bed, unable to get out of bed. Like, I don't know if you've ever, if you know anyone who's ever had a situation like that or a story like that, but like anxiety is like an irrational fear of something that is gonna, could possibly happen. But in my experience, like the worst case scenario very rarely ever happened. And so that was just one of those things that I kind of, struggled with. But you talk about a low point, Adelina, and the Texas teens. A low point is you laying in bed and not being able to get out of bed, and your pregnant wife of like 7 months pregnant wife is going to work every day and working, and you can't physically get up to go outside to do a job that provides for your family. And going from a 6-figure income is very, that's a rough place to be. So any questions about any of that?
Yes. So 2 week span, like, would you consider that that's pretty like the low part of all of this?
Yeah, I think, I come from a family where, if my parents did anything right, they instilled work ethic. And having grown up and seeing, like, at that time, the man takes care of the family, like that's just like kind of a Southern thing, like in my head, that that's what men do. They take care of the family. And I was unable to do that. And so watching my wife, put her scrubs on and go into work, and I spend a whole day laying in bed, with the lights off and the shades drawn, in that kind of depression, anxiety state, that is definitely the low for me. When I look back.
How did we go past that? Because obviously you're talking to us today.
Yeah, I know. I got so down. I'm so sorry, guys, but
Yeah.
I feel like you have to share, where you've been to really appreciate where you can get to. And so anyway, so I see a doctor, see a psychiatrist for a couple of weeks. Didn't really go a ton, but kind of got some things figured out. And then my first spark really hit whenever I saw my name. They used to do monthly team meetings at my old brokerage, and my name was up on the screen. And at that time, I was coming in every day, but not having a ton of success, because I didn't know the route to get to. Like, I didn't know the activities that I needed to do to make the money, that I needed to. And so I just happened to have another closing, and my name was on the screen, and I realized real quick that I was like everybody's little brother. Like, hey, you're the little engine that can. You think you can. You think you can. Like, he shows up and he calls people. He spends more time in the office than anyone. Like, that's what I thought made you successful at the time, was just putting in a lot of hours, even if you're doing the wrong thing. And so I really got a spark out of just seeing my name on this big giant screen. And then one house turned into 5, and 5 turned into 25, and 25 turned into about 50. And so I just expected that I would always like 5x my business every year. But somewhere around that 25 to 50 March, I realized that I wasn't everyone's little brother anymore, because they quit clapping for me at the sales meetings. And so that was a weird thing, where I went from thinking, everyone will pretty much share everything with me, right? A lot of these teams in your market center and stuff, they'll share everything because you're not direct competition with them, because you're just some, young punk. And then you get to where the young punk is, kind of on a pedestal, and then everybody got real tight-lipped around me. And so that's whenever I realized, oh, okay, like, they see me as some serious competition.
Well,
So
let's go back for a second. So you got into business in 2014. The low was when? Like, what was the low point?
that would be like 2015.
2015. Yeah. Got it. And so 2015, we have the low point. You made a decision to seek help in order to just work through some of these irrational fears, and stop caring about stop trying to be perfect, essentially, which is hard to say, but and then, like, when was, like, okay, so when did you hit your stride? Like, and were you scared to, like, were you just, like, at what point were you not scared to pick up the phone anymore? What point were you not scared to do showings anymore? Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I think I do. So I guess right before I put my team together is when things started really clicking, because it occurred to me that everything was on me, like in a good, positive way. So what the agents around me didn't really affect me. Like with Place, we get to be on a team, and we want the team to succeed, but it's really individual in our success, and you can do the right activities to get the right, the income that you want, or you can't, and that's like your options. Like, I can work really hard today or not, and so in the back of my head, I've always wondered, like, if I was an employee on my own team, or if I was, on a team that was like mine, like, would I want to be in business with myself? And you've probably heard that before, but like, that's something that is really deep ingrained in me. Is like, okay, I show up to work today, I give it my all, because real estate's really easy for us to get sidetracked and want to do the canvas stuff or wanting to do the creative stuff. But what's really cool about real estate, in my opinion, is that it's not on anyone else. Like, it's on us. Like, we can show up, we can make the calls to make the calls to hit the contacts to appointments to, sign documents, and then closings. And we just do that every day. And so it's very simple. And that's what I love about real estate now that I've done it for, 7 years, 6-7 years. And that there's no big recipe on how to win, how to succeed at it. You just put your boots on and go to work and do the stuff.
So it was just day by day at that point. You were just like, okay, I just got to show up today. Let's do it today. And then
you wanted me to answer your question. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, it was just it was very much like that. It was just let's just do the work. So it shortly after that really bad stint, like, the good thing about going through the lowest lows is that it only goes up. And so and it did. So I started selling real estate individually, hired an assistant, put a team together, which was thrown together at me. Like, my brokerage was just like, these two people want to, they're really bad agents. That's not what they said, but they, at the time, they weren't the greatest. They were, they needed help. And so I was doing well, so why not tag along with me? And I didn't know what I was doing. I was spending a bunch of money on Zillow, and they were horrible at follow up, and there was no structure. And so the team struggled for a year or two. And then I was like, well, here's this red book over here. And I wasn't with Keller Williams. But what I did is I went into Google and just Googled everything, like Keller Williams documents and all this stuff that people had left on the internet, and I would just download it all and rip it off, and try my best to implement it. But the thing is that you can have all of this content and all of this, these things that are Keller Williamized, I don't know. But until you're in the culture, like, there's always a missing piece. Like, when we were talking last night, I was like, it's like, you can go down to Chinatown in the old city, or in New York, and buy a knockoff iPhone, and it looks like an iPhone. Some of the software is kind of similar, but it's not an iPhone. It's until you get that, iPhone, the actual one from the iPhone store or from the Apple store, that you truly get to experience what it's like. And so it's very similar with brokerages. I had tried to figure it out myself, but when I came to KW, the lights came on.
When did you join KW?
I believe that was in 2019. So not
okay.
not too terribly long ago.
Got it. So you spent some time at a different brokerage trying to figure it out yourself, getting yourself to a point where you were in a better place, mentally and emotionally and all of that. And then 2019, you joined KW. What happened then?
Yeah, so I've always been in real estate coaching, or like always participated and had a real estate coach. I got one thing I did right through most of my career is, once I could afford a coach, I got a coach, because I'm a big sports guy, and I've always saw that everybody who went far, Michael Jordan has a coach, right? Just any sports figure, they always had coaching. And so I did the same thing. So I was part, while I was at Keller Williams, I was part of 2 coaching programs. One was in my market center, and one was an outside coaching thing. I had done Tom Ferry and a couple others, but landed on this one, and their business model was like a brokerage pretty much. And they just added success through addition of people. And it doesn't matter if they sell 1 home a year or 15. By adding that one person, now you sold 1 more home, and that essentially puts money back in your pocket. But it was a flawed plan. And so we got up to 12 agents, which was huge for my ego, and I felt really good. And I was like, I had probably triple the amount of agents as any other team in my market center at that time. But of course it imploded, because we didn't have the structure and the systems in place that needed to be in place for them to succeed. So.
Do you still do you have any anxiety and panic attacks now? Sorry to keep going back to this.
No, you're fine. Yeah, and again, we can stick on that.
No, no, no.
I just
I'm just actually curious.
Yeah, I didn't want to like depress everyone today, and I was trying really hard, But yeah, I'm to be honest, I'm nervous on this call because I probably care a little bit too much about what people think about me. That's something that I've always kind of struggled with because I always wanted my parents split when I was like 1.5 or 1 years old, and then I always wanted to make my stepmom like get that kind of approval, and so that just carried on into my adulthood. So yeah, I definitely get nervous. I don't get nervous on at closings or buyer listing consultations. It's different things now that that I don't do every day. So I would say yes, but it's you do something enough and you get comfortable with it. When we were in high school, my parents, we were too small really to play contact sports, and so my dad had always driven race cars, and so when we got in high school, our parents bought me and my brother a race car. And so I remember like every time I would go out on the track, and we had to rotate turns of driving the race car each weekend because we only had one car. But I remember like that anxiety, like being, pretty high getting ready to pull onto the track. But after you pull onto the track enough, that goes away and you get used to it. So it's kind of an extreme example, but yeah, I get nervous.
How'd you end up in our world?
How'd I end up in your world? Well, you were a huge help in that. So this is probably one of my things that I'm really, really, happy about or blessed about is that so last year, again, and I've only been an expansion partner for 5-6 months, something like that. But last year or the year before, it occurred to me that I was making good 6-figure numbers for income, but my agents were not. And they had the same tools that I had. One or two of them had been with me for a couple of years. Like there's no reason that they should be not making the same income that I'm making. And that would not go away, because once you start making a certain amount of money that you feel like is a really good amount of money, and anyone making 6 figures in Knoxville is doing pretty well. You get to the point where the money's not like the biggest thing anymore. And I always wanted to see my bank account go up and up and up and up, and I guess still to an extent do now. But the like, you want those around you in your world to be as successful as financially as you are, and to surpass that. And that I think that shows like that true caring for someone. But no one on my team had, and that was weird to me because they had everything that I did, to the same systems. They actually probably had more because I was paying for leads, and I wasn't working the leads myself. And that's one thing I can give you guys. And so so I started going down this journey of how can I help them. And I realized two things. One, that I probably had some of the wrong people on the bus, which is heartbreaking whenever you realize that, and you've been with these people for a year or two, that they're the wrong people. And then there were some systems and tools missing as well. And whenever I started looking online, I saw that the place agents were making really good money. Like some of them were making, significantly more than me as a team leader. And you had connections in Knoxville. I don't exactly know how we got in contact with each other, but somehow you had connections in Knoxville, and I'm in Knoxville, and it kind of sparked, hey, can I meet with you guys, or can I have a conversation and get the ball rolling? So
right now, what does your day-to-day look like on your team now that you are here, and like what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so ups and downs, but we finally landed on something really, really solid. So we have a mandatory 8:30 call every morning. That goes for 15 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes, so from 8:30 to 8:45 is like, our power up chant, and any wins that we had, and any new listings or anything like that we can talk about. Then at 8:45 we start into script practice. We script practice for 15 minutes, Right now on Zoom, we're just going one by one, like with the same script. We stay on a script all week. And then from 9 to 10, that's everyone's power hour. And that's whenever we're lead generating, not lead follow up. And so it's very intentional trying to get new business. And then you have the rest of the day to do lead follow up and try to set an appointment. And then we always try to make sure our closings or appointments are after 10 o'clock. That way we can really protect that time. And the agents that come into the office, they typically put in a little bit more time than we ask of them, but the business shows because of it.
Got it. And one thing I wanted to ask, because somebody had asked this question, you're a leader and a producer right now, right? So how do you manage that? What's your schedule like throughout the week? Like, is Monday a specific day? Is Tuesday a specific day? Because you're outselling and then you're also leading the group. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I've always been a workaholic. I really like working. I just enjoy it. We got a unique opportunity that we can actually help people and help them, in an amazing way, get a house. So Monday is recruiting day for me. I really spend a lot of time on the recruiting side of things. Tuesday for me is agent one-on-ones. That day is pretty much dedicated solely to making my agents better than they were the week before. Wednesday through Friday is my time to work on my own business. And then the weekend I end up showing a couple homes on the weekends and going to a couple appointments on the weekend. But
what are you guys working on right now? I know you said what you guys are doing really well are like definitely open houses and not slacking off during the end of the year type of stuff. But what are you guys working on to improve? Like, give us some insight in that world.
yeah, so we're new to Brivity. I've had Boomtown for about 5 years, and I enjoyed it. It was a good system. But we're really trying to get plugged into to Brivity and get our CRM system set up. I know that we had shared the dashboard that we created with you guys, and we're trying to make sure our dashboard looks as good as possible. And me being me, I want to make sure that I'm better than everyone else on our team when it comes to the accountability aspect of Brivity and making sure that no one gets lost. And so right now that's a big thing for us, is just making sure that that we're one of the better teams. My goal as a team leader is to be the perfect expansion partner for Ben and Chris. Like whenever they talk about someone who's an expansion partner, like in my head, I want to be the best. And that's what I strive for. So right now, I think there's a girl in Texas who's doing a pretty good job, but I got to take her down soon. So,
do you weird question, but do you ever hear from your people that they feel like you're micromanaging them?
No, I've wondered that too. I've often thought the thing that goes through my head is, if I was on a team, would I be on this team? And it's a resounding yes. Like if someone would have created this place team before I partnered with you guys, I would have joined their team. I feel 100% on that. But in my area, there was no one to join with, so we had to create it. As far as the micromanaging goes, I think that I think because it's coming from such a sincere place of me wanting to help these people, that they haven't pushed on that too much. Like they're either going to be bought in or they're not, and it's going to show in their numbers because they're going to be resentful and making the calls and logging the tracker and all these things. And a lot of times, that just means that there's a better opportunity for them somewhere else. But I haven't brushed up against that too much. Like, and I've been open with them. Like whenever I joined Place, I was like, hey guys, I'm doing this for you guys because I'm giving half of this business away. In my head at that time, I'm giving half of my income away so that you guys can get health insurance. You can get all these different benefits. You can get access to really brilliant minds that, in my world in Knoxville, we weren't going to be able to do without them.
One of our agents asked a question, and it was, how do you personally feel, or how do you coach your agents when they have a lot of active buyers, a lot of pendings, and yet you don't want to go on this roller coaster of real estate and stop doing lead generation, but you're already so busy? Like what's your feedback on that? Like how have you managed that yourself, or how would you tell someone to manage it?
I think we talk about the roller coaster effect all the time in our team, and being good Southern guys and girls, like we always, diesel is like our thing. Like a diesel truck, it's very consistent. It'll run for 300,000-400,000 miles without any hiccups. Like that's how we want our business to be. Is very as straight across the board as possible. You have to leverage. You have to leverage when leverage is needed. We have a transaction coordinator and a director of ops that help us out a ton. Everything is, for the most part, seems like a really well-oiled machine over here in Knoxville, and you prioritize. So there's the 10 steps of brevity to make sure your brevity is running optimally, and your business needs the same type of system put into it. So who are the first people you take care of all the way to the last people, and you just repeat that cycle. But definitely leverage is big, and then just making sure that that your priorities are where they need to be with each client.
Going back to your power hour, is that Monday through Friday?
It is. We ask our agents to be on 4 of the 5. So there's a tracker that we got from Chris Suarez and his team that we implement, and it's you're on 4 out of 5 of the morning calls, morning script practices. So attendance is taken at 8:30, 8:45, 9 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. And then we ask them to be on 1 training session per week. They get to pick the training throughout the week on the PDX stuff. And then they have to do 2 open houses a month, even with COVID going on. We want to make sure we have been so blessed to just crush open houses. Like our open house signs say mega open house on them. People come all the time asking, what's a mega open house? And we're like, we have a better reason than just being like, I don't know, you showed up, so I guess it worked, you're right. But we just say that we host multiple open houses in the same area. So they do 2 open houses a month, and I'm trying to think of anything else that I might have missed.
So I think what I hear you say is, because that 9 to 10 o'clock is protected every day for lead generating, it's very hard to get off track. So like that 9 to 10 is protected, and then the rest of the day like is for follow-up appointments, handling all of your business, but protect the 9 to 10.
Yeah, that's your future business. What is 1 hour dedicated each day to making sure that you have a paycheck next month? I mean, it seems very simple.
Everybody just heard that. That 1 hour a day is your future business. And if you're not willing to dedicate 1 hour a day for future business, you're not going to have paychecks. I mean, that's it right there, folks. 1 hour a day. Like you either that's like you respect the 1 hour a day so that you can have income in the future, because everything you're working on today is already done and over with. All your current clients. That's really good. Word of advice that you have for everyone?
I think
It's always so awkward. Like, what do you end with? All the pressure. We just talked about pressure. Robbie, take it away.
Yeah, don't put your hand on a stove. That's the word of advice for you guys. I think that we are really, really blessed, and like from the bottom of my heart, as we wrap up, and I know we ran long, but we are so blessed to be in this industry, guys. We have the best support systems that we could possibly ask for. I know, because Adelina gave, again, half of her business away. I gave half of my business away just to give you guys these opportunities that you would not have at another brokerage or another team or anything like that. And the business falls on our shoulders as individuals. Like, we can make however much money you want to make. Like, it's on you. Just show up, do the work. As much as creativity goes through my head, like, creativity never sold a house for me, but just showing up, and having that mentality of, get in there, get the job done, and then go home, hang out with the family, like that puts food on the table. So
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing today. What are your 2021 goals for your team?
Yeah, we want to do 200 homes, which we were super bummed last year. We fell short. We fell short by 3 homes of our goal. So this year, 200, we're going to add 8 agents total, and they're going to be 8 rockstar agents, not just 8 people off the street that we throw a place t-shirt on. So.
Got it. Speaking of place t-shirts, definitely got to put the t-shirt on and actually do the work, right? Update for you guys. Tomorrow, you know how Chris usually does the call? It's Ben tomorrow. And word of advice, I'd be in front of your computer because he's going to be like on the computer, like showing stuff and doing stuff. So you're going to, like, if at all possible, be in front of a computer tomorrow because Ben is on. Chris is taking some time off. And so I think it's going to be a fun call, but get ready. You know how around Austin, we call Ben Disney Dad. So Disney Dad is coming in tomorrow to love on his people. So use the same line that we always do. All right, guys, have an awesome day. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Texas.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thanks, Robbie.
Thank you.